Hello, I'm Bella, and I'm 31 years old. I currently stay at home managing our household duties. My husband, Jerry, who is 4 years my senior, and I have been living with his parents, Henry and Marilyn, for the past 3 years. Both in their 60s, Henry and Marilyn are vigorous and healthy. Marilyn, Jerry's mother, is particularly sociable and enjoys an active social life. Since moving in, I've noticed that Marilyn rarely participates in household chores, despite not having a job outside the home. Previously, she was a stay-at-home mom, but now she largely leaves the domestic responsibilities to me. Occasionally, Marilyn encourages me to take some time for myself, yet she criticizes me if everything isn't perfect upon her return. I've tried to discuss this with her, explaining that I might not be able to complete all tasks before she leaves, but she dismisses my concerns. She often remarks that handling numerous chores is normal and criticizes my generation for not managing as well as hers did. Moreover, Marilyn frequently praises Jerry, especially proud of his job at a prominent company, and often points out that while Jerry works hard, she feels I do not measure up. This comparison has become her go-to comment. Jerry's reaction doesn't help. During meals when Marilyn complains about my efforts, he merely responds with an indifferent, "Oh, really?" which shows little support. Initially, I admired Jerry for his maturity given his age, but now I often feel relegated to the role of a housekeeper, even when I work tirelessly into the night. The situation has become increasingly challenging, and I wish Jerry would stand up for me more, as it seems he does not see the extent of my contribution to our home. He doesn't confront me directly. Instead, he tosses laundry at me, aiming for my face, and curtly tells me to handle that too. I regret marrying him because he's changed so much since our wedding. On our first anniversary, he brought home a cake, but then playfully smashed a pie in my face and laughed about it. It's hard to believe he's an adult. However, there is one silver lining in my life. My father-in-law, Henry. He's incredibly serene and always checks to see if I need help with anything. He's the sole source of kindness I experience in this household. Since leaving my job to get married, Henry has become someone I can confide in. My affection for him has grown, and I've come to see him almost as a real father. However, Henry works during the day, which means I often spend a lot of time alone with Marilyn. While I can speak freely with Henry, Marilyn's demeanor towards me sours. She even began accusing me of flirting with my father-in-law simply because Jerry neglects me. She would hurl these accusations when Henry was out of earshot. I tried to deny it, but she dismissed my words, mockingly asking if she had touched a nerve, always ready with a biting retort. Our conversations never seemed to go anywhere. I brought up these issues with Jerry, hoping he might understand it was just Marilyn's unfounded suspicions, but he just laughed it off, joking that I was now interested in older men too. It was painfully clear that nothing would change. I never expected him to start doing chores or to stop Marilyn's mockery, but I also never imagined he would react like this. It was a significant shock, leaving me feeling increasingly out of place in their home. One summer day, Marilyn began discussing plans for a family trip during Jerry's summer break. Initially, I thought Marilyn's suggestion for a family trip was just her usual enthusiasm for outings, but then she caught me off guard by asking if I wanted to join. I hadn't expected an invitation and thought they might leave without me. When I hesitated, Marilyn's expression turned suspicious, and she questioned whether I wanted to go or not. Her sudden invitation made me uneasy. I couldn't figure out her motive, and I was worried about how she might react if I declined. That evening, Jerry brought up the trip again, seeming curious about whether I planned to attend. I mentioned I was invited, and his reaction took me by surprise. He burst out laughing. Confused and feeling more uncomfortable, I asked him why he found it funny, but he dismissed my question, claiming it was nothing. On the day of the trip, it was Jerry, Marilyn, and me in the car, with Jerry driving and Marilyn next to him while I sat in the back. Henry was unable to join us initially due to work commitments, As we drove, not being able to see their faces added to my anxiety. Midway, Marilyn inquired if I had withdrawn money for the trip, to which I confirmed I had taken out a few $100s. Her pleased reaction seemed peculiar to me. As we continued driving, I noticed we had bypassed the inn where we were supposed to stay. "Did we just pass the inn?" I asked. Jerry responded vaguely, mentioning there was a tourist spot ahead and that we'd check in after visiting it. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and I felt a sense of foreboding. The further we drove, the scenery became lusher and more isolated. I quietly sighed, ensuring neither Marilyn nor Jerry heard my concern. Eventually, we arrived at a small, secluded dam with hardly any people around. Marilyn suggested we get out and stretch our legs, while Jerry added a reminder to not leave anything valuable in the car. I followed their instructions, stepping out into the unfamiliar surroundings, still trying to make sense of the day's unexpected developments. As I stepped out of the car and shut the door, I noticed Marilyn and Jerry hesitating, pretending to fiddle with something inside the car. Then I heard the click of the locks engaging, the windows were left only slightly open, and suddenly Jerry burst out laughing. Puzzled, I asked, "What's going on? Are we staying here for the night?" I felt a surge of anger toward Marilyn, but I managed to keep my composure. "What do you mean?" I asked, striving to maintain my cool. "You walked right into that one, didn't you?" Jerry replied, laughing so hard he had to clutch his stomach. My wallet and cell phone were still in the car. Everything had unfolded just as Marilyn and Jerry had planned. "Have fun out here, Bella," Marilyn sneered mockingly. "Maybe you can eat some grass and sleep under the stars." Jerry, still holding my wallet, riffled through it, then rolled up the window. Their laughter faded as they drove off, leaving me stranded. Standing alone, feeling the heat, I muttered to myself, "Well, this is just great." Despite the sweltering heat and the risk of dehydration, I surprisingly didn't panic. About an hour later, I found myself in the lobby of the inn where we were originally supposed to stay. "Why are you here?" Jerry exclaimed, shocked to see me as he entered the lobby. "Are you a ghost? Did something happen at the dam?" He looked utterly bewildered. Marilyn, who looked like she was on the verge of fainting, eyed me nervously. I considered playing along and pretending to be a ghost just to tease them, but decided against it. "I'm not a ghost and I'm staying here tonight," I told them, showing them the key to my room where I had already dropped off my luggage. Jerry couldn't make sense of the situation and started to get agitated. He thought I had taken the key to their room without permission. "What are you doing? Give it back," he demanded, reaching for the key aggressively. However, I was prepared for their antics this time, and I stood my ground, ready to confront whatever came next. Just then, a man stepped forward and firmly grasped my husband's hand. "Sir, please refrain from causing a disturbance here," he said with authority. He was about the same age as Henry, but with a stronger build and taller stature, which made him appear more commanding than my middle-aged, slightly overweight husband. "Who are you? Are you staff here? You can't just interfere with a guest like this. I'll sue you for assault," Marilyn shouted at the man who intervened. "I apologize for not introducing myself earlier. I am the owner of this inn," the man replied calmly. Upon hearing this, my husband quickly released my hand. I recognized the owner. Back in my college days, I had visited this area with friends during a summer break. It was an extremely hot day, and we got lost on our way to our accommodation. During our ordeal, we stumbled upon a girl who collapsed on the side of the road, Kelly, the owner's daughter. We immediately called for an ambulance and stayed with her until help arrived. The next day, the owner visited us at the inn where we were staying and thanked us profusely. "You saved my daughter's life. Thank you so much," he had said. He also extended an invitation. "Next time you're in the area, please stay with us. You won't have to pay." Since then, my family and I have visited the inn several times, so I knew the owner quite well. As he addressed my husband and Marilyn, he remained polite, yet I could sense the undercurrent of anger in his demeanor. In fact, both the owner and I were aware of Marilyn and my husband's scheme from the beginning. 3 weeks ago, Feeling suspicious about their sudden invitation for a trip, I decided to set up a voice recorder in the living room. I strategically placed it to capture conversations when my husband and Marilyn thought they were alone, like when I was taking a bath or doing laundry. When I stumbled upon their plan, it was utterly shocking. I heard my husband and Marilyn plotting over a recorded conversation. "Let's ditch Bella somewhere. It would be hilarious. How about near that gym, an hour's drive from the inn?" Realizing the gravity of their scheme, I immediately contacted the owner of the inn to inform him about what was unfolding. The owner was livid upon hearing this. Having once experienced his daughter collapsing in the heat, he felt a personal connection to my predicament and was even more perturbed by their callousness. With the situation clear to him, he meticulously arranged my pickup for today, just after my husband and Marilyn's car departed. Interestingly, the driver of the inn shuttle turned out to be Kelly, the very girl we had helped years ago. "I got my license, let's go for a drive," she exclaimed with excitement. Despite my initial surprise, I agreed, and we chatted happily, even stopping to buy some local specialty ice cream on the way back to the inn. Even though I knew about the plan and that a pickup was coming, I was still worried. But Kelly, knowing the area exceptionally well, expertly navigated, and we arrived at the inn significantly before my husband and Marilyn. "You mentioned suing earlier, ma'am," the inn owner said, addressing Marilyn with a stern look. "Yes, I did. It's outrageous to be accused of the opposite," Marilyn snapped back defiantly. "I'm sorry, but you're not our guests," the owner responded firmly. "What? Don't mess with us." My husband and Marilyn both lost their tempers simultaneously. "Your reservations have been canceled," the owner stated plainly. "And who do you think you are?" My husband blustered, on the verge of another outburst, but the owner held him back. "Bella did nothing wrong. We at the inn canceled your reservations," the owner explained calmly. "What do you mean?" my husband demanded. "If you leave a woman alone at a dam in the mountains after stealing her wallet, wouldn't you be committing a crime?" The owner posed rhetorically, emphasizing the gravity of their actions. "We cannot permit such behavior at our inn," the owner declared, and he revealed that he had already called the police. My husband and Marilyn became even more incensed at this revelation. "This is no joke. You can't treat us this way. I work for a respected company," my husband protested, as if his job should afford him special treatment at this quaint mountain inn. Just then, Henry arrived, immediately sensing the tension. "Hey, what's going on here?" he asked, surveying the scene. Marilyn and my husband quickly tried to spin the story, accusing the inn staff of rudeness and claiming they wanted to stay elsewhere. However, when Henry was briefed on the actual events, he became enraged, a side of him I'd never seen before. "You idiots!" he yelled, clearly embarrassed. "I can't believe we're from the same family. You two get out of here now!" My husband and mother-in-law were stunned by Henry's outburst. "Where to? Another inn?" they asked, bewildered. But Henry was resolute. "You're disowned. Get out." "No, don't make me say it again," he commanded, pushing my husband away. As the police arrived, my husband and Marilyn's complexions turned ashen. The owner and I explained the entire scenario to the officer, and I played back the recorded conversation. My husband and Marilyn began to cry, but Henry interjected sharply. "Quiet down, you're disturbing the inn. Officer, please take them away." "It's not like that, officer. We didn't think it would be such a big deal. It was just a prank," my husband tried to explain. But the officer's expression hardened. "A prank? Are you serious? Don't you realize that your little joke could have put someone's life at risk, especially your own wife's?" They were scolded harshly, though they weren't arrested due to the familial nature of the matter. Marilyn and my husband looked pale throughout the ordeal. "This isn't over. Bella's feelings will determine your future. Understand?" With those final words, they left, still visibly shaken. Henry, who seemed apologetic for not intervening sooner, stayed behind to ensure everything was settled. Henry repeatedly expressed his remorse. "I'm sorry. I can't apologize enough for not noticing the unpleasant experiences you have been having and the terrible ordeal you went through today." He also extended a deep apology to the inn owner for the trouble caused by his family's actions. Interestingly, it turned out that the inn owner, who also runs several other businesses, is a client of the company where Henry works. Unaware of this connection, my husband had earlier boasted about his position at a prominent company, adding another layer of embarrassment to the situation. I was relieved that I had uncovered my husband and Marilyn's plan in time, but it was also a sobering reminder of what might have happened if I hadn't been vigilant. I hoped that being reprimanded by the police would help them realize the gravity of their actions. After returning from the inn, I decided to divorce my husband and sought a significant settlement, hoping this experience would be a lesson for them to refrain from hurting anyone else. In a surprising twist, Henry and Marilyn also ended up divorcing. Henry severed all ties with my ex-husband, kicking him out of the house because of the incident. Furthermore, my ex-husband was advised to resign from his job, as his behavior at work had also been problematic for some time. Just as he had mistreated me, he had been harsh with his colleagues and engineers, and the HR department had already been contemplating action against him. Reflecting on my actions, I was disappointed that I had, to some extent, mirrored such negative behavior. Now unemployed, my ex-husband struggled to find another job. Despite his age, he lacked a solid track record for managerial positions at his previous company and found it difficult to explain his departure. Marilyn, too, was kicked out by Henry and sought refuge with relatives, returning to her parents' home. These developments marked a significant turn of events, highlighting the consequences of their actions and the importance of integrity in both personal and professional life. Concerns linger about Marilyn's penchant for spending and traveling. Her relatives worry she might deplete their savings if she were to move in with them. Given that she's still in good health, it might be prudent for her to consider securing a part-time job to support herself and mitigate such concerns. Meanwhile, I've moved out of my in-laws' house and now live independently nearby. I maintain a friendship with Henry and occasionally seek his advice on work-related issues. This marks a new chapter in my life, a shift from my previous role managing household duties and caring for children to embracing new professional opportunities. During my job search, the owner of a company reached out to me. Aware of my recent challenges, he expressed concern and offered me a position at his firm. It seemed he was eager to help me find a stable footing within his organization. I accepted his offer with gratitude, touched by his kindness. In our conversations, he insisted that his company was the one grateful to have me. It felt like a full circle moment, repaying a past favor, and now it was my turn to contribute positively. The company he introduced me to is well known and highly regarded for its treatment of employees, a pleasant surprise indeed. Interestingly, this company operates in the same industry that my ex-husband used to boast about, yet it's significantly larger. Everyone at my new workplace is friendly, making my daily experiences far more enjoyable than the times marred by marital strife. This new beginning has been invigorating, allowing me to leave behind the past and look forward to a promising future.